Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Road to Grandmaster series. In this series, I take you through the behind the scenes, the training, the lessons, the ups, the downs, the tournament recaps of what it takes to become a Grandmaster. And this is episode number 18, and perhaps one of the more exciting episodes that I've uploaded, although a good amount of these has been exciting. In episode 17, I drew three-time World Blitz champion Alexander Grishuk, and I uploaded that to this playlist, which you can check out if you haven't already. In today's episode, I got my highest ever win on chess.com. And it was against none other than Hans Niemann. And I'm going to show you the game today. Now, Hikaru has already made his recap about the game. There's stuff on social media about it. I didn't expect it to be such a big deal. I didn't even know I was playing Hans until the game was over. Because I've actually installed a little extension which hides the names of my opponents when I play in Title Tuesday. And the reason for that is because I get into my own head when I'm playing a good player. And this is building my confidence a lot. I've managed to defeat and draw a lot of very, very good players, just simply focusing on the board and the moves. And it's really been working. Now, haters will say, well, in tournaments, he's still going to lose because he knows who he's playing and it's not going to work. Yeah, but they're 600 elo, if even, maybe even half of that. And second of all, it's just about building confidence and just showing to myself more than anything else that I do know how to play the game, and I am quite strong. So yesterday I had 2 out of 2, and this is who I got paired against. This is what it looked like. It was just a Santa icon because the extension isn't smart enough to remove the avatar. So I assumed I was playing somebody strong, but obviously for the purposes of the video, I will keep it at Hans, right? So I opened up with e4, and Hans actually played the Caro Kann against me. Now, what's funny, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. So Hans has his, account here, right? And if you go to Magnus Carlsen's account, he has a Santa icon, but it's a profile picture. So you see, I saw the Santa, and for a second I was like, am I playing Magnus? But I didn't actually know that. I didn't know who I was playing against. They play Caro Kann against me. I play d4, and I play the fantasy variation. I like the fantasy variation a lot for Blitz. I like taking the center, knight c3, knight f3, etc. And my opponent played e6, right, which is one of the lines. Now, what I remember is I actually defeated Alireza Firouzja. I defeated him some months ago. He was rated 3060, and he played the same exact thing against me. He played like this. So there's a line here, a3, bishop takes, takes, and then white plays knight h3, which is a gambit line. You try to give up this pawn and get a big lead in development. But Hans played bishop a5, and so here I was remembering my game against Alireza, but I didn't really remember all the details. And, I just know that black wants to go back and then at some point, break in the center and take on e4, because otherwise black just has no play. So I developed the bishop here, which is actually, believe it or not, I think this is a slight inaccuracy. I think I don't know where I want to put this bishop, but okay, this is a very natural move. Knight e7, bishop d3, knight d7, knight e2. So I basically just developed my pieces and I took the center. And I'm aware, I've also had similar positions against German Grandmaster Rasmus Swane. And he castled in that game, and I think I castled, and then he played something like this. And it just got very complicated. Black is in time to fight back for the center. Generally, white should take and probably leave this as is, like basically play around it because e4 is not a thing. And if black ever does this, white just gets very, very powerful bishops with a very pleasant position. So, again, Hans is my opponent, but I didn't know that during the game. So he took, and now I was ready for e5 or c5, and that's what he played. So black has basically equalized. And another thing here is that I don't have my knight on f3. Like, if I could have a position like this is, in my opinion, very nice. But the knight is on e2. I guess I get the open file. And basically, as you can tell, even though I'm playing somebody strong, I'm up 20 seconds on the clock. Now, the reason for that, partially, is because Hans knows he's playing me. So I think he was, he was being a streamer. He's just kind of hyping up the audience. He's like, oh, he's like talking trash because he's like 340 points higher rated than me. Oh, and I should say, I do have a second channel on YouTube. I actually have 3 technically. So I will upload the full footage of the game to Gotham Games. So after you're done watching my thoughts of the game going on, you can watch my thoughts live. And so here's a big moment, right? Like here's the moment where, do I bring the queen up? Do I go here? Against Ali Reza, I kicked out his bishop, but that was stupid because he can just, he repositions. So I thought of a handful of things. I thought about playing h3 here because I thought it made sense to stop anything from coming to g4. I didn't know where I wanted to put, but I thought this was a nice improving move. The engine doesn't like it. In fact, it already thinks black is slightly better, which is kind of insane, which I don't even know what I did wrong in the opening, but whatever. And so Hans played knight g6, which I thought made a lot of sense. And so here is actually where I played my first very impressive move. Now, I'm going to show you the move. It's not going to be impressive at all. But generally, this is where I lose to 3,100 rated players on chess.com. This is generally where I lose to people with FIDE ratings of 2,600, 2,700. Hans is 2,700. We get here, we get an equal position. Then I take way too much time because I get nervous. Then I play bad moves because I'm a worse chess player. Then I lose. The point is, it's very difficult for white to make any progress here. So if I try to bring my queen out and put the rook back, what he wants to do, let's say, instead of there, queen d2. Black actually wants to take the pawn on d4 and play something like this. And I thought black is better here with this blockade, with the bishop coming out. So then I thought, why don't I play to my strengths? And why don't I keep the position closed? Now, I spent 30 seconds coming up with this move, but it's very smart. And the point is, if we ever trade, or even if we don't trade, I have a passed pawn. So I have a pawn that is only being prevented from moving forward by pieces, not by pawns, right? So trade or no trade, this is a passed pawn, and I'm just going to build behind it. I'm just going to build with the pawn, and my bishop is going to stay here, and his pieces are not going to be able to utilize the center because the pawn is in the way. So the d5 was very, very clever. Now, I anticipated his next move, which I thought was going to be this. Obviously, he's trying to target my weakest piece, but I thought just queen d2. I just reinforced my piece, and I'm happy. Now, what's funny is actually queen d2. I realized during the game that he can play queen g5, which is kind of an insane move. I can't take the queen because he takes my king, and I can't take the bishop because he takes my queen, so I have to play rook f3. Now, it looks like he can just crash in, but actually I'm surviving, so maybe that's why he didn't go for it. He went knight f6, which I thought was a natural move, and I went here to prevent anything from going here. He took, and I took. Now here, again, he's actually much better. So what I should have done here is I should have taken with the bishop. I should have taken with the bishop, given up my bishop, and then taken with the knight and played behind the knight, not the pawn. But the only way to take advantage of pawn takes d5 is kind of a deep move, which is findable in hindsight and definitely findable in a game with a slower time control. But the move is knight e8, and the engine thinks after knight e8, knight to d6, simply blockading my pawn, black is better, because after that, black is going to also bring the f-pawn, and just has a very nice position. Almost kind of looks like a Sveshnikov Sicilian. That doesn't mean anything to you. You guys don't even know what a Sicilian is. But you get my point. In the Sicilian, black attacks on the king side in many lines, and white has a kind of a pawn on d5. So he didn't do that. He went bishop d7, which again, during the game, I thought, like, this makes perfect sense. And I brought my rook. And again, during the game, I was saying, I'm building behind my pawn. I have 4 things defending my pawn. At some point, I'm going to push my pawn forward. And Hans brought his rook. So he finished his development, and I went here. And so now the game starts getting very spicy, right? So we have this moment in the middle game. We both have about 2 minutes. Again, I don't know who I'm playing. I will remind you. At this point, I'm kind of ready for the attack to begin by my opponent. And so we get knight to h5. And it's difficult to come up with a move here. My first idea was get out of the pin. So to play king to h2. Get out of the pin, king h2. You see the board is turning white. That's not what happened. I rejected this because I wasn't thrilled about the queen arriving here. Now, what's funny is the queen is trapped if it arrives right away. But just vaguely, I was worried that this would happen, right? So I thought maybe he can take my bishop first, and then he can play queen h4. Or maybe he can even play f5. And I thought, okay, well, why don't I not, like, I'm trying to get my king out of the way, but why? Why am I trying to get... So then I thought, you know what? I think my opponent, I would keep saying Hans, I don't know, I didn't know it was Hans. I think my opponent wants the queen over there. So what if I take? Now that is actually the best move. It is the best move. And the reason is black's options are to take and damage their structure, doubled pawns, or to take, and now I play king h2, and it's an improvement. It's an improvement because the queen wants to be here. It doesn't want to be there. So I correctly took on b6 to bring the queen away from the side of the board it wants to play on. So now the queen needs much more time to get there. By much more time, I mean at least one extra move, which would be literally going all the way back, which is probably not what is going to happen. Now, Hans plays f5. And again, during the game, I thought, okay, my stronger opponent, is trying to take advantage of the position. The engine says it's +1. But Hans played f5, clearly seeing this, and it's not obvious what my follow-up is after d6. Because after king h8, knight d5 is the top move. What? What about this? Well, now I go here. So I attack the knight, and I'm threatening a discovered attack on the queen and the bishop. So he's in a lot of trouble. If knight f6, I actually just take. And so I have kind of this forcing sequence of moves where he cannot touch my pawn, which we did not see, and then queen d8 back, and then I can get into e7, which is really unpleasant, with a really, really dominant position. Now, I saw d6, I saw knight d5, but I rejected it because of queen d6, but there was that queen g5 idea. So you know what I played in this position? Queen g5. Because again, he went here, he's trying to attack me. I thought, I'm getting nuzzled in there on g5, it's a nice little square, I'm attacking the knight. And I thought if I go queen g5, he's gotta go back. And then I was gonna maybe play knight g3, maybe give him a discovered check. But, I should have played d6, etc. And here he went forward. And I understood his point. I mean, his point was that if knight takes f4, he wants to take with a knight. Because this doesn't make any sense. There's no point to damage your pawns like that. Like, they're just tripping over each other now. I'm gonna go d6, I have a dominant position. So I realized my opponent has made a mistake. Knight f4, I can just take, because if he takes, he stops guarding e7. The knight is guarding this and this, but he cannot stop my infiltration. So knight f4, queen e7. And at this point, I'm thinking, wait a minute, I'm winning the game. Because I'm forking the bishop and the pawn. I mean, it's straight up a fork. He can't guard both things. So I'm not nervous, because as you can see from the time management, like, again, I think I've been playing a lot better recently, where I'm just like, I'm more relaxed, I'm just sort of playing the game. But now I start getting these thoughts in my head, right? Now I give the discovered check, because this was the whole plan. It's the 23rd move of the game, but on the 12th, remember I pushed d5. The whole point was to build my whole position behind the pawn. I know the engine is saying all sorts of things, but at the end of the day, this was the idea. It was to get the pawn moving into my opponent's territory, king h8, and queen e5. And so here, officially, I start getting a little nervous, right? Because I know I'm playing somebody good. I don't know who I'm playing because of my extension, but I'm like, okay, let's not screw this up. So he goes knight g6, and I offer a queen trade because he was attacking my queen. If he takes me, we just have a really powerful pawn, and we have an extra pawn, and slowly I will probably advance the rest of my pawns. I'll get connect 4. It's going to be a really unpleasant position. So my opponent goes queen a5, and I play rook e1, right? Play rook e1. And I thought this move made sense because I'm taking control of the file, but I had an idea in mind here that I was desperately hoping would work. And anytime I get to play one of these ideas in my games, it's always really special because it's what I'm known for. Hans played f4, and I saw his stream afterward, and he was relying, and correctly so, by the way. Like, he was talking a little trash, but he was right. He kept saying, "Where's the Levy I know?" Like, where's the Levy that's going to choke this game, right? I mean, I've messed up a lot of good positions against good players because I'm not at that level yet. But the next move got him really stunned. And I went, rook e7! I sacrificed the rook And it's because of my pawn. It's because of the pawn that I have been investing in from the beginning of the game. The point is, this is mate. The point is, he can't go here because he loses his rook. So the only thing he can do is play rook f6, and then I just attack the rook, and that's it. He's going to lose the rook because mate is threatened. So when I saw this idea coming from a distance, I was like, oh, maybe this is it. You know, because again, when people play me, especially people who like watch Twitch and watch YouTube, they may have a scouting report on me that I will get nervous. I'm going to mess something up. But I am capable of finding, and look, I found this move in 2.8 seconds. I had seen it. And Hans here on stream was like, what? Who am I playing? This is ridiculous. This is not Levy, you know? And then he went rook f6. And now, at this point, my heart is pounding. Because I know how close I am. I have a minute versus 14 seconds. I know the position is completely winning. But then I start panicking a little bit, right? Because I know I'm playing somebody good. So now the nerves are kicking in. So on this move, I spent 38.5 seconds, which is ridiculous. That is so ridiculous. But the point is, now you get this moment in the game where the opponent is going to start resisting. And the most dangerous type of opponent is the one that's wounded, right? Especially like really, really good players. They're really good defenders. So my first idea here was rook f7. It doesn't work because knight e5. Then I have to repeat. Then I'm like worried he's going to mate me, which is absurd. But, you know, he has a lot of pieces pointed at my king. So I thought about rook f7. It doesn't work. So then I thought about maybe I'll just sack the rook. Which, to be fair, I thought about doing this, and it's a good move because my pawn gets, you know, into... Then I thought, well, let me just go back. All these moves are fine. And yet, after settling down, I found the best move of all. Hidden in this pretty open position is a very close quarters type of move, queen e4. And what's funny about queen e4 is when I played it, I was watching, not afterward, not during, I was watching Hans after, and he yelled, how did he find this move? And that's a huge boost of confidence for me, because this is definitely the most accurate move. The reason is, I threaten a queen trade. Without a queen, black's position is completely hopeless. I also threaten, in this position, taking. If he takes my queen for free, I get a new one, so that's a very important detail. And the other thing is, if he moves away, I'm threatening to take the bishop and go queen e8 check when he takes back. So this move is really smart and makes him have to move somewhere, and he goes queen b5, and now his queen is away from the action. Now there's a very easy way to win here, which is rook d5, attacking the queen, going to h5, and that's it. Black is hopeless. I didn't see that because, again, I don't have a lot of time, and I was, again, just really trying to get his queen off the board, so I went queen d5, which is not a bad move. But this way, I force a queen trade. Now, the problem, what I've done here is now we both have 10 seconds, right? So the position is throwable, but not to a loss, probably only to a draw, right? Now, at this point, he takes, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, he got my rook back, but I'm going to win 2 pawns, and I'm already up a pawn, so I'm probably just easily winning, right? So I take on f6, and then I take on f4. 5 on 3, same exact pieces, not a losable position, right? Is it winnable? I don't know. Can I panic and hang my rook somehow? I don't know, but heart is pounding, right? Heart is pounding. Now, again, it was very nice to hear Hans credit moves like queen e4, because I'm not as good as these people. Like, and I know I'm saying yet, but I'm not going to be a 2,700 FIDE rated player. It's just not, it's never going to, I'm probably never going to be 3,100 on chess.com. But I'm trying to get to 2,900. My highest ever blitz rating is 2,860. So it would be nice to break 2,900, maybe 3K one day. But it's nice, you know, it's nice because I have been working hard, and now it's just about holding my nerves. And so here, all you got to do is just not blunder anything, right? So I went rook g4. And the point is, I'm threatening checkmate. I'm defending this. He goes h5, which is actually a big mistake. His point here was that if I chase his pawn, he's going to take on g2, but he blundered rook g4. I keep my pawn defended, and now I'm going to take with check, and then I'm going to go back to g4. So now I am 3 pawns up. I have 7 seconds on the clock, so the position is still, against all odds, pretty throwable. He goes king f5. Again, when you have 7 seconds on the clock, your brain is malfunctioning, right? So I went rook g7, I went rook g3. Like, I'm just shuffling, I'm shuffling, I'm trying not to lose on time, and I'm trying to find the way forward. So he goes a5. I don't let him push his pawns. So my bishop is protecting everything. But I'm a little scared, because if I move my bishop, I'm gonna lose a pawn. So he goes here. That's not a real threat, because he's not actually ever gonna take on c2. You say, why? Well, because I have 2 extra pawns. So I mean, he cannot go to a rook endgame. The only way to survive for him is to keep pieces on the board. He goes bishop c6, h5. Here I thought I blundered. I thought I blundered here. I mean, I should just push my pawn, because rook h5, rook h3. But I went rook h3 right away. This was really stupid. He should obviously repeat moves. He went rook g5, and I went g3. Best move. Only move, by the way. Only move. And now I pushed the pawn again, and he went to the corner. And so here I was like, okay, now I have breathing room. So he's gonna bring the rook back. I need to go make a run for it and keep my king safe. So I play bishop c4, which does none of those things and actually hangs a pawn. Like bishop a4, straight up just a free pawn. He goes rook f5, and I tried to reposition my bishop. Now he can't win my material. He is threatening this though. It's never too late to lose. Rook h4, rook g2, and I went for it. And with 2 seconds on the clock, I realized he's made it. His king is in the corner, my pawn and my bishop are there. He takes, and now the game is over. This is easy. Why is this easy? Because we push our pawn to h7 check. He has to keep it over there. We don't blunder the pawn on a4. I think even if we do blunder the pawn on a4, it's winning, because the king is so stuck. But we don't blunder the pawn, and that's it. Black has no pawn play. Black's king is stuck standing on these 2 squares. And we march our king, and we win his pawns. And that is exactly how we defeated Hans Niemann. His rating before this game was 3124. 3,124. Hans has like recently been top 3, top 5 on chess.com and Blitz. It's actually kind of nuts. Like his rating has been 3,200. His highest rating in Blitz has been over 3,200. And I mean, I definitely feel like, I mean, he may deny it, and, you know, he'll go on Twitter and post some nonsense, but I have a feeling he kind of got into his own head a little bit, because I guess, you know, he was thinking about content and so on. I was zen. I didn't know who I was playing until literally I hit analysis after the game, and it was Hans. And I was like, well, you'll see, because I'll post it. That was crazy. And this is now 2 times. I mean, I beat Firouzja and I beat Hans in the same line of the fantasy Caro Khan. So they're playing the Caro Khan against the man who is, you know, modern day leading practitioner of this opening. And I've managed to win. Obviously, it has nothing to do with the opening. Hans was even better here. He obviously, it was complicated, but had he found this idea 98, 96, I would have been in a lot of trouble. But this is not anything I was even remotely considering during the game, but it is a lesson, right? It's a lesson not to get blockaded, and it's so counterintuitive to give up a bishop like this. But I guess the point is, you replace it with a really powerful piece, you play c4, you just have a very pleasant position. Yeah, I mean, that aside, it was a very complex game. It was very back and forth. I made a lot of good decisions. I made a couple of bad decisions. But Hans was the first one to make a big mistake. And that just led to this nice infiltration. And I was so happy to find rook e1, rook e7. I mean, this is, you know, I did not try to get famous for screaming sacrificing the rook, but this is a cool move. He can't take because the pawn itself forks his rooks, which is really gangster. And we beat Hans. Now, Hans finished in 8th place ultimately in this tournament, and I finished in like 70th. I lost 2 games at the end to 2 lower rated players, but I got my content for the event, so I'm very happy. And yeah, every week I play in this tournament now, I'm surprising myself. I have been working hard last several weeks and months. I worked hard in the lead up to the Madrid tournament. And obviously, you cannot hide who you are playing in real tournaments. But getting consistent results like this against really good players has been an amazing boost to my confidence. I've beaten Hikaru a couple of years ago, Firouzja recently, Hans recently, Alexienko, Blue Baum. I mean, so many strong grandmasters, Zhigalko, for example. And it's very, very motivating. And it makes me want to keep working hard and actually trust myself in critical positions and critical moments, but can always be better. So we beat Hans. Road to GM. Best win ever on chess.com. Because I think Hikaru, when I beat him, was like 3,080. So pretty funny. And that's all I have for you today. So if you want to check out a bunch of behind-the-scenes content, I keep saying it's on the Patreon, $7. That's it. Get a bunch of GM lessons, bunch of bonus content. And that's all. Get out of here.